Item 301, Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Item 302, approval of tonight's agenda.
Madam President, I move approval of our agenda as published.
I have to abstain. Oh, no, on the agenda, second. Sorry.
I have a motion by Jim, seconded by Allison. All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Item 401, approval modification of minutes from the September 18th, 2024 Governing Board meeting.
Madam President, Mr. President, I move approval of the minutes from September 18th, 2024 Governing Board meeting.
I'll second.
A motion by Jim, seconded by Monica. All those in favor say aye.
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 I abstain. I wasn't there.
All righty. And you know, it's October, but I appreciate you getting me, mister.
It says,
Item 501, approval of tonight's consent agenda.
Mr. President, I'd move approval of our agenda as published.
Second.
A motion by Jim, seconded by Allison. All those in favor say aye.
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 Aye. Aye.
Motion carries. As part of tonight's consent agenda, I want to thank Gen Digital, T-Mobile, the Thai Foundation, Let's Go Compost, and the partnership of ASU and AZR3 Grant for their donations to Tempe. 601, Dr. Driscoll, Celebrate Excellence.
Good evening, Mr. President, members of the board. Tonight I have a few items to celebrate excellence. National Hispanic Heritage Month is observed from September 15th to October 15th, and Tempe Elementary is proud to celebrate the histories, cultures, and contributions of Hispanic individuals. Later this month, McCamey Academy will host their annual Hispanic Heritage Festival. The festival transports the McCamey Courtyard into a vibrant array of culture for students and their families to enjoy together. The goal of this festival is to teach students about the importance of Hispanic culture and about the legacy and contributions of Hispanic people. McCamey students have been hard at work researching and creating interactive experiences for attendees to enjoy at the event. The festival will take place at McCamey on October 24th from 5 p.m. to 7 p.m. We have a lag. Ben, I'm gonna ask you to push it. Thank you. TD3 was excited to offer fall intercession to support third grade students over fall break. The fall intercession was free for families and took place in person at Wood Elementary from Monday, September 30th through Friday, October 4th. Students participated in high interest, engaging learning to support reading, and were also provided with breakfast, lunch, and transportation if needed. Oh, you went quick. Ben, you're quick. All right. Our awesome middle school athletes just wrapped up the first quarter season. Congratulations to these amazing teams for taking home the winning trophy. JV Girls Volleyball, Ward Traditional Academy and McCamey Academy. JV Flag Football, Ward Traditional Academy. Varsity Girls Volleyball, Ward Traditional Academy and McCamey Academy. And Varsity Flag Football, Mosley Middle School. Congratulations again, students. National Principals Month is celebrated in October to recognize our incredible school principals and to thank them for all that they do to support their school and community. Thank you to our 22 school principals. Each of you are instrumental in creating strong, effective school environments and play a critical role in helping our students in their educational journey. I'm honored to work alongside of you all. And that concludes my Celebrate Excellence for this.
701, presentation of the 2023-24 annual financial report. Eric Thompson.
All right. I always just go with President Miller. Get rid of all the Madam and Mr. Just do that. So, President Miller, members of the board, Dr. Driscoll, thanks for having me tonight to have this double header of presentations from me. So we'll get all the financial stuff. So we're going to start with the annual financial report, the AFR. And so why we are here, the state requires AFR for all districts to be submitted by October 15th. So this is the latest meeting that we have before that date. So that's why we're here. And we call it the AFR, but there's also kind of additional parts to it. So there's the large AFR, that's the district-wide one, that's just called the annual financial report. But then we have a desegregation AFR, a school level AFR, and a food service. So within that, there's also some other ones as well. So some of the highlights from the district-wide AFR, just letting you know, most of the expenses are in M&O. That's our general fund. That's our main fund where most people are paid from. About $100 million. So it's going to be real simple math on all of these percentages here when our expenses are $99.5 million. Salaries and benefits in M&O, $86 million. So about 86% of our M&O expenses are people. And so, you know, when we look at electricity and fuel and supplies and that, it makes up 14% of our expenses. The vast majority of our expenses are in the salaries and benefits. Special education in M&O, about 20 million, and then transportation, about 2.5 million as well. So overall, the M&O budget is 110 million. So we have about $11 million of carryover. That's the money that we were allocated that we didn't spend, so that's going to carry over into next year. And so just for some foreshadowing on that, you know, we also had 9.6 million expenses in ESSER. And as we've talked about for the last few years, ESSER went away about 9 days ago. It was all wrapped up. So those, if we had 9.5 million in expenses last year, unless those expenses go away, we have to shift them into M&O. So with no more ESSER, those expenses now either we're not going to pay for those people or programs, or we're going to have to fund them out of somewhere else. And so the funding out of somewhere else kind of comes to the carryover. So this is the carryover that we have had over the years, and it has increased pretty dramatically over the last few years because of ESSER. Because we had those expenses, you know, random things might pop up, and we said, oh, well, we can pay for that with ESSER. Well, now we don't have that safety net anymore. And so we have built up a cushion of about that $11 million. And that's going to help us over the next year or two. If you see other districts kind of having to make a lot larger cuts, I'm not saying we're not going to have to make cuts, but it'll kind of allow us a cushion a little bit on there. So we're pretty financially cushioned on that. So it's higher than it normally is, and that's due to all the expenses that we were able to put into ESSER. And I don't want to have a huge carryover because it's kind of a balance. You don't want to say, hey kids, 8th graders, we can't spend that money because we have to be financially secure. Like, they want to spend that money now, but we do have to have a balance there. So, that's one of the things where each year we kind of look at, okay, how are we doing on enrollment? How are we doing on expenses? And so having a higher carryover than we've ever had, I think is a good thing right now because of the ESSER going away. So we have a little bit more flexibility. So we don't fly off the fiscal cliff. We have a little bit of a cushion on that. Classroom site fund, we had $7.5 million in expenses for that. It's the most we have ever spent in classroom site fund. We also have the highest carryover we've ever had for classroom site fund, and that's because it's funded through sales tax, and sales tax can fluctuate a little more. There was worry when COVID hit and things kind of shut down that it was going to drop a lot, but that didn't really happen. Inflation is generally a bad thing, but when it's sales tax, it's kind of actually a good thing when we're getting funded through the sales tax. So we have had more in there. We've been able to add additional dollars into teachers' base salaries. we're able to add an additional paid workday as well, because that's one of the things the teachers were talking about, is they need more days for planning ahead of the school. We added an extra workday for that, and we paid for that out of Classroom Site Fund. So that has increased a good bit over the last couple of years as well, and so I think we're in a good position on Classroom Site Fund. Some of the other expenses that we have, the capital, the unrestricted capital, so that's a combination of just the regular capital and the district additional assistance override. We spent $7.5 million on that. We spent $11 million in the bond fund, and then the building renewal fund, $4.7 million. So those building renewal dollars go to critical maintenance repairs in our buildings, and so basically every dollar that we can get through the building renewal grant is a dollar we don't have to spend in the bond. So the more grants we can get in that, the further we can stretch those bond dollars. So getting $4.5 million for that is essentially almost adding $4.5 million to our bond fund, because we didn't have to use the bond dollars for that. Food service, AFR, we served 1.75 million meals this year. So we feeding a lot of students, which they had a slight increase in the number of meals served, even though we did have lower enrollment. Part of that probably is due to when we went 100% free meals in, I want to say, March last year. And so that kind of helped increase it. I would expect to see an increase again this year, because we'll have the full year of the free meals. And so that will be a good thing for both the program, because the more meals we can serve, the more reimbursement we get back, but also the more meals we serve, the more we feed our students, which is always a good thing. The school level and the DSEG AFRs, I'm not going to get into a lot of detail on that, because there is a lot of detail in those. It's probably more work is spent preparing those than the actual AFR, because of the level of detail that the state asks for on all of those. You're happy to play around with those and dig into them, but they're very, very detailed. All right, and if there are any questions on the AFR, I'd be happy to answer them.
I don't have lights for Allison and Monica. Do you guys have any questions?
I don't, and I'm following along on the slide. Thank you.
Okay,
Yes, thank you.
very good. No questions for me either.
All right.
So I think we can, move straight into 702, which, spoiler alert, yes, you again.
Me again, all right. This is the nightcap of the doubleheader here. All right. Bond and override report. And so the why we're here, if a school district has the voters approve additional taxes, whether it be the M&O override or the district additional assistance override or bonds, we're required to have a meeting to tell people what we have done with that money and what we are planning to do with that money. I don't know if we got any blue cards tonight, but it's supposed to be a public comment opportunity for the voters to come out and discuss it as well. And so that is why we're here. The meeting specifically has between September 1st and October 31st. So that is the purpose behind this one, and we'll give an update on all the overrides and the bonds. So I'm going to start with the bonds, and we have two different bonds that we're really looking at, the 2016 and the 2022. So the 2016 one was passed in 2016, 165 million. We have sold all of those dollars. So we have a little bit of money left in there that we will spend on some things, but all of that money has been sold, and we have about $10 million in cash, depending on when you looked at it on the date. So for that one, we did a lot of rebuilds, renovations, buses, some furniture as well. On the rebuilds, we did it in 3 phases. We did Nevin and Frank, Wood and McCamey, and then the final one was Mosley. And so these are our expenses. So you see, as of the end of the year, 157 million out of the 165. So we've got a little bit left, but it's not going to last very long. And you can see kind of the increase in the price of building schools. You know, I'd love to build an elementary for 19 million, like we did with Frank, and that's just not gonna happen now with the increase in prices. Mosley, you can see, I mean, that was the most recent one, 54 million. Like that was a lot of money. But we were able to rebuild all those schools, a lot of critical maintenance as well, get a lot of buses. So I think it's, we got a little bit left, but we'll be spending those by the end of this year. So some good news on there, when we go out for the bond, we have to tell the taxpayers kind of our estimated, what we think the estimated rate will be. So that middle column there, estimated total bond cost, we're coming in significantly lower every year on the bond rate. Part of that is, you know, spreading it out and not having huge chunks, but a lot of it is also just the rising property values. As the values go up, the rate doesn't have to be as high. But we're still, I think it's always nice to show that we're coming in significantly lower on the tax rates than we had estimated at the time. So most of the dollars go to those rebuilds, but we'd have a lot of other projects from the HVAC or the roofing or the flooring. We're also starting the EV charging stations with the bonds, so that's going on over at Brogan. They're in the planning stages for that one. And so for those remaining dollars, that little bit that we have left that we're going to use up this year, a lot of it is going to go to that EV charging project and the buses that we're going to get delivered. We have a grant for a good chunk of that as well, but we have to pick up part of that in the bond as well. And then starting the Curry Connolly design will be using up the remaining bits of those funds. So the 2022 one was $196.5 million. We have not actually sold any of those bonds yet, but it should get done next week, actually. So we're going to start with $35 million. The vast majority of the total dollars is going to be 120. So we're going to have a few different sales along the way. So we're kind of timing those out so that we're not getting 120 million up front and then paying interest on them before we really need those dollars. So we'll be back in a few months with another sale. But that way it can save, when you're selling $100 million, waiting 6 months can really save you a lot in interest. So we're timing those out a little bit. But as you can see, 196 million, Curry Connolly is going to use up the vast majority of that. All right, on to the overrides. And there are two different overrides. There's going to be the M&O override, which is really people and programs, and then the district additional assistance. That is things. And it used to be more of physical things, capital, hard, tables, computers, that kind of thing. It has kind of shifted over the last few years. I'd say the DA override is almost the technology, the software override. There's so many softwares that we pay for, different licenses that we have. So we spend a good bit of that on those programs. So the DAA, limited to 10% of the revenue control limit. So it's been at $5 million since 2005. It's been set at that same point for a while. But it goes to musical instruments, textbooks, the software and licenses that I was talking about, computers. So we have the computer refresh that will come out of there. So those type of items. And it will be on the ballot for renewal in November. And if you remember, we had been at 5 million every year, and we asked to go up to 7 million because the revenue control limit is now up at about 71 million. And the $5 million that we were getting for the DAA override in 2005 does not buy nearly as much as it did. It doesn't buy now as what it did back then. So how the DAA override works, it's approved for 7 years, so we're getting that 5 million for 7 years, 35 million. Most of it, technology, computers, routers, those kind of things. And then a lot of software as well. And then, as you see in the picture, we did refresh all of our instruments right after we had approved it. So that was 1.5 million just to the musical instruments. For the M&O override, it is
people and programs. So it's, of that 86% that we have in expenses, a lot of that is paid for in the M&O override. It's about $10.5 million every year that we get for that. It does fluctuate because it's not a set amount. It's always the 15% of the revenue control limit, and that changes every year because that's based on enrollment. It was renewed in 14 and 19. It's fully funded through this year. It's on the ballot for renewal in November. If it does not pass, then next year it would be reduced by 1/3. So that would be a cut of about $3.5 million if it doesn't get passed. These are some of the programs, talk about people and programs, a lot of the music programs, the athletic programs, PE, the full day kindergarten, because the state only funds us for a half day, but we offer a full day. So there's some of the programs that are funded through the M&O override. I think we missed some slides there. Oh, maybe that's it. All right. I made some changes because I had a duplicate slide on there. So I think we got it. So if there's any questions on the overrides, I'd be happy to answer those. Or the bonds.
Allison and Monica, do you have any questions?
Thank you, Mr. President. And Eric, I'd like to thank you for being so transparent and putting this together. It's really important, and I'm so grateful that we have the ability to let our voters know what we're doing with our money. And I'd like to also give credit to you that we have actually won for several years in a row the Fiscal Responsibility Awards. I'm being completely transparent with how we're spending our money. And this is why, like, we have it down to the cents on what we're spending, where we're spending it, what we need it for, what's not funded to us unless these bonds and overrides pass. So I'm hoping that people can take time to see this and maybe watch it again on YouTube and see where this money goes, what it's used for, and how fiscally responsible we are with that in order to give the programs that our families and our communities asking us to do. So Eric, thanks for putting this together. I'm grateful. Thank you, Mr. President.
I don't have any questions. Thank you, Eric.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you. So, to that end, item 801 is an open call to the public. We have no blue cards, so we're skipping straight on through to 901. Discussion, consideration, and possible approval of a student data privacy agreement between Tempe Elementary School District, Payback Incorporated, to pilot their instructional AI platform and to authorize the superintendent to sign the agreement.
I could give
Dr.
you some.
Driscoll, if you could.
Yeah, so the purpose of this program is actually through our AVID program. And so students will use the Payback to enhance their writing skills and get feedback on the structure and quality of their writing. The platform is contained within the AVID's platform and is already part of the product that we already paid to utilize. So this doesn't cost the district any money. It's a function of that product. The target population will be 100 students at Connolly in the AVID courses. So only students in the AVID courses, 100 total, and it will be no cost to us because we already pay for this program as part of AVID.
I don't have any questions, Mr. President, but I'll make a motion to move this item to approval of student.
Second.
Okay.
A motion by Jim, seconded by, I believe, Monica, to approve the privacy agreement. All those in favor say aye.
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 So moved. Item 902, discussion, consideration, and possible approval of a memorandum of understanding between Tempe Elementary and Teen Lifeline.
I'll let it burn.
Mr. President, members of the board, This is actually evidence-based program that Team Lifeline, a nonprofit within our state, delivers resiliency-based lessons for our students, specifically at the middle school level, but also offers workshops and trainings for our staff as well as our parents to be educated on these topics that students will receive.
Mr. President, I don't have any questions. I'm ready to make a motion to approve this item.
Go ahead.
Approve the memorandum of understanding between Tempe Elementary School District and the Teen Lifeline, Inc.
I second.
A motion by Jim, seconded
This is Allison.
by Allison. Thank you. All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
So moved. All right. Item 903, discussion, consideration, and possible approval to award contract 25-13-27, construction managers at risk to Core Construction LLC for the rebuild project at Curry Elementary and Connolly Middle School.
I'll turn this over to Dave.
Thank you. Mr. President, our President Miller, members of the board, Dr. Driscoll, I'm very happy to be here this evening along with my leadership team in Core Construction. Tonight, we are recommending contract approval for construction manager at risk design services to Core Construction. Core Construction was established in 1937, 87 years ago. They operate in 9 states with over 1,200 employees. This firm has plenty of resources available to serve our district well. Core is a top-ranked general contractor that is known for bringing new, innovative construction services to their clients in the K-12 arena. Their proven track record includes over 50 total campus replacements in Arizona. Since 2021, Core has received multiple awards for their success as a general contractor and their award-winning projects. In 2023, Core was awarded the #1 educational contractor in the nation. The selection process for our recommendation was very detailed. Therefore, I think I need to thank the selection committee for their time and their efforts during the selection process. Our voting committee members for the selection included our superintendent, Dr. James Driscoll, our chief financial officer, Eric Thompson, our chief of staff, strategic partnerships, Brittany Franklin, our director of innovative environments and school design, Jennifer Nussbaum, and myself. I'd also like to acknowledge our purchasing supervisor, Lupita Gomez. Lupita did an amazing job orchestrating this entire process. Lastly, I'd like to recognize our community and their commitment to our students. Their commitment is second to none when it comes to providing state-of-the-art educational facilities. Therefore, I thank the community of Tempe. At this time, it's my pleasure to introduce 3 representatives from Core Construction. Mr. Todd Steffen, President of Core Construction, Mr. Brian Ham, Project Director, and Mr. Drew Kyle, Business Development Manager. So at this time, our team will be happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Mr. President, I have a couple questions. When I reviewed this item, there's 39 pages of it. Maybe I just missed it, but the guaranteed maximum price, was there a date specific or time after this contract would start?
We have just now started the design for Connolly and Curry, so we're looking at we're thinking probably multiple GMPs for this, probably an early procurement for civil, then another GMP for long lead items, and then we'll probably get into the construction piece of the GMP. So probably after the first of the year, we'll start seeing some GMPs coming through.
Thank you. That was my primary question, that we have a long way to go because this is a big project and a lot of money. And so, thank you.
Certainly is.
Mr. President, Monica and I don't think could hear that answer very well. Can you give us the answer again, or just give me a little synopsis? I'm looking through the paperwork myself, and I don't see one either. So that's to come. Is that what I was here?
Yes, if I were to surmise your summation, yes, that basically in future timelines, there will be future GMPs as the construction process furthers on.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Allison, Monica, did you guys have any questions? Or other questions, I should say?
I'm good.
No, thank you.
Do I have a motion?
Yes, I'll make a motion, Mr. President, toward the contract 25-13-27 for construction manager at risk to Core Construction LLC for the rebuild project at Curry Elementary and Conley Middle School.
I second. This is Allison.
I have a motion by Jim, seconded by Allison. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. 904, discussion, consideration, possible approval of the FY 2023-2024 School District Annual Financial Report. And yes, the construction folks can leave now if they so wish. Yeah.
They have to get up early tomorrow.
Yeah.
Mr. President, all my questions were answered during his public presentation.
Sure.
So I don't have any.
Monica, Allison, did you guys have any further questions regarding the AFR?
I do not.
Thank you.
Very good.
Mr. President, I make a motion to approve the FY 2023-2024 School District Annual Financial Report.
This is Allison. I second.
Motion by Jim, seconded by Allison. All those in favor say aye.
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 Motion carries. 905, discussion and determination of logistics for a Step 4 appeal hearing to the Step 3 administrative decision concerning a staff grievance pursuant to Governing Board Policy GBK staff grievances. And as a reminder, as part of this, both for discussion purposes and for ultimately a motion, we need to decide whether it's in an open or a closed session, and whether to have a special meeting about it or to have it at our next regularly scheduled meeting. And I suppose also to authorize Dr. Driscoll to notify on our behalf, but.
Well, Mr. President, I've been on the board for some time, and we haven't done these sort of things in open session that I can recall. And so whenever we have the meeting, I'd prefer to have it in a closed session from that standpoint. And I would prefer to do it at our next regular scheduled board meeting, whether we need to start at 4 in the afternoon or 5 or whatever the time would be. I would prefer that.
Allison, Monica, do you have a preference?
This is Allison. I'd like to, I agree, closed session and the next scheduled board meeting.
4 p.m. or earlier before the next board meeting works for me.
Okay. Yeah, I don't see why we couldn't have it at our next board meeting. And I mean, it is ultimately about a staff member, so closed session does make sense. So, and the time of the executive session, we can certainly work on that. So with that said, do I have a motion?
Mr. President, I move that we proceed to step 4 appeal hearing from the step 3 administrative decision concerning the staff grievance pursuant to governing board policy GBK. And that be held in closed session at our next regular scheduled board meeting, the time to be adjusted for parties.
This is Allison, I second.
I assume also as part of that, you're authorizing Dr. Driscoll to notify on our behalf?
Yes.
I think that's the vote.
I have a motion by Jim, seconded by Allison. All those in favor say aye.
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 Motion carries. Item 906, discussion and first review of proposed changes to governing board policy BAA, evaluation of school board/board self-evaluation. This seems like it just changed a date and made it so it's kind of a nebulous time for us.
Yes, they took out the at least annual, no later than October 30th, and basically gave you guys the option when to choose.
Mr. President, if I remember correctly, we always do these self-evaluations long before that date, even if they did or did not change the wording. So I think we're completely in compliance. Is that correct?
Yes, although ultimately, if we were to make this change on a second review, I mean, we would always be in compliance, I guess, technically, because there would be no date in question. So, and yeah, it says should it choose to do so, we wouldn't even have to technically at that point. So, and also this is the first review, so we don't vote on anything. So, Jim, Allison, Monica, do you guys have any further questions or comments about this?
I have a question.
Sure.
Is this a legislative change, or why is this or just a recommendation?
Sorry. Yes, it was removed from, it's not statutorily required. That's why they're asking to make this change. It's not a statutory requirement to have the date of October 30th.
Interesting. Okay. That's all. So there's basically, the change is basically there is no date set and there is no regulation set. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, pretty much. There's no date anymore that you have to have it done by. Should you choose to.
That's correct. You know, we just hold ourselves accountable at that point, you know? Anything else on this item?
I'm good.
No, I have nothing else.
All right, with that, then I will move on to 907, discussion and first review of proposed changes to governing board policy DJE, bidding, purchasing procedures. This one seems to be just adding a sentence at the end.
Yes, pretty much. It adds the district purchases shall also be in accordance with 2 CFR 200-214.
And Mr. President, Dr. Driscoll, the rest is just the citation changes to the ARS, is that correct?
Yes. Yeah.
Thank you.
Allison, Monica, do you have any further things on this item?
Mr. President, I have no questions.
Very good.
No, thank you.
Moving on then to 908, discussion and first review of proposed changes to governing board policy GCFC, professional staff certification and credentialing.
And in this one, they added statutory language, and so you'll see additions of items Y, Z, AA, and AB with language in there, and then they added a person who makes.
But was this not already included?
Yeah, no,
It seems like if,
I know, it seems like it should be something that would be, but it's expanding it, and for any safety purposes, I'm grateful for that being expanded.
I would imagine the statutory references that are being added under Y are new statutory references and thus are just being, more encompassing. Y and AB, I guess, and AA.
But, Mr. President, as I'm looking at this, even if they disclosed any of these sort of things, we could still hire these people?
I mean, they have to have a valid fingerprints clearance card, so. I would
yeah, and they can't get a finger.
Difficult.
Yeah. They have to disclose if they're in the process for any of these offenses. So if I'm reading it,
And the fingerprint card? Okay. I'm satisfied.
All right. Allison, Monica?
no, thank you.
This is good. I'm good. Thank you.
All right. Then we're moving on to 909, discussion and first review of proposed changes to governing board policy GDFA, support staff qualifications and requirements. This one's
Similar.
very similar.
yep. They again added Y, Z,
Yeah.
AA, and AB.
So unless you guys had any further questions, I think we're clear to then just move straight on to 910, discussion and first review of proposed changes to governing board policy IGA, curriculum development. And this one just removes,
Yeah, there was no statutory basis for it, so they removed the all certified personnel have professional obligations section.
anybody have any questions?
Dr. Driscoll, Mr. President, I have a question for him. We don't require our teachers to participate in this. It's like an opt-in on curriculum development if they'd like to be on the committees. Is that correct?
This is saying is no longer a statutory requirement that you have certificated personnel. Before, we had to have certificated personnel as a part. Now it's saying that they don't have professional obligations to do that, including working on curriculum committees. So to answer your question, there used to be a requirement that for some of these things, certificated personnel had to participate. It was a part of their work duties. This is taking that language out to say that it's no longer a requirement, if I'm reading it correctly.
So do you have a concern that we wouldn't have, I would want
No.
those who are teaching to be involved in the curriculum as
No.
much as possible, that we won't have people who will participate in this process?
No, I think we have a lot of employees who will gladly participate in this process. And if so, we'll probably gladly submit blue cards to you guys for agenda items that relate to this. So I think we have ample staff that will be wanting to participate in this, but it just takes out the obligation. So we would continue like we always do, having certificated personnel. It's just not a requirement, but I would ask for certificated personnel to participate like we've always have. Since 9 times out of 10, it will be affecting them in these decisions.
Thank you, Dr. So thank you, Mr. President.
All right, with no further questions on that one, I think we're going to move on to 911, discussion and first review of proposed changes to governing board policy IMG, animals in schools. And this one does add a kind of rather large paragraph, mostly talking about keeping service animals under control. As far as I read, Dr. Driscoll, that would be a fair summation.
Yes, it is in compliance with the Americans with Disabilities Act, so it's taken language from that in terms of service animals.
Mr. President, when I was at Shamley School a week or so ago, the school resource officer wanted to see if she could start a program similar to what other districts and other cities have with a dog. And I've forgotten what the name of the dog was. It wasn't a service animal. It was a,
Would you say an emotional support animal?
yeah, therapy. And when I looked at this definition in here of a service animal, it could be a dog or a miniature horse. She specifically wanted a dog, and from that standpoint, and she said there was a lot of other districts that did this, and she thought she would like to pilot that at Shamley School. Would this changes to our animals in school policy, would we need to do anything? Or would we need to add in emotional support animal or behavior modification aid or whatever we call this animal?
Yeah, I believe you would have to create policy for the therapy dogs, and then specify what that is and how they can interact. We do have service animals, which is required by law to have, so that's why we have this. But yeah, we can create policy and regulations for therapy dogs, because that's what the board directs us to do. We can give you draft language of some other systems that have that as well.
Thank you. Mr. President, Dr. Driscoll, I wish we'd follow this up a little bit and see what the other school districts and police forces do or school resource officers do, and see what we can do, because we know we have behavioral issues, and we know that if people learn to be around animals or kind animals and pets and they don't abuse them, they probably won't be so violent in the future when they grow up and abuse people. So I think this might be helpful.
I suppose I don't know what other districts' policies look like, but I was at the Child Crisis Arizona grand opening out in Mesa, and they have a therapy animal at their office. And well, I got to pet a dog at a grand opening that also had, the Arizona Diamondbacks pitcher, Paul Sewald, so it was just a pretty fun time.
I have some
Meet a pitcher
policies.
and pet a dog.
I have some policies that I could share with you guys, some drafts to work up.
Thank you.
Allison, Monica, do you have any further questions or statements on this item?
No, thank you.
No, thank you.
Moving on to 912, discussion and first review of proposed changes to governing board policy JFB, open enrollment.
I would say from time, go ahead.
No, go ahead. Because I didn't see any blue marks in here.
Yeah, this is us looking at our own policy, JFB, and just making updates to be more reflective of what Arizona Revised Statutes said. It also includes the policy update from July of 2024. So it's really just cleaning up our own policy.
So we did that in ASBA, or?
ASBA in July of 24, they had a policy advisory for this, and then we cleaned it up even further to be more clear so that our parents and when we deal with this, yes.
I think we might have to be even more clear, because it says a district may give enrollment preference, and if I'm not mistaken, didn't a statute just pass last session or the session requiring members of active duty military to be given, enrollment? But this says may, so I think may is not a requirement. So I think it is a requirement now, though.
Okay. We will look at that to make sure that that wasn't a typo.
As I read the rest of that sentence, Mr. President, Dr. Driscoll, a district may give enrollment preference, may give preference. Doesn't say they have to. In Mr. President, Ms. Trejo, I'd prefer to leave it written the way it is. It gives us more discretion because in the future, somebody could say, well, I'm one of these items A, B, C, or D, and I have preference. And I think we always try and accommodate everything, but sometimes we won't be able to allow the open enrollment, particularly with a student with special needs from foster care, for example.
And I will circle back because I know we had legal review this document as well, and I will send you guys guidance from them as well on this policy, but I know they reviewed it as well to make sure it's in compliance. So we will check this, and I will give you an update. I can do it at the next board meeting.
Thank you.
Thank you.
If there's no other comments or questions on this item, we are then going to move straight into 10:01, reports from standing committees, which I believe, Allison, there may be a report.
I didn't, yes. There is a report. We met on the school finance committee. I'm not feeling great, guys. We met on the insurance fund meeting 2 Fridays ago now, I believe it was. And our next meeting is going to be in December. The main thing that we really, really need to look at for everyone is trying to encourage everyone to, one, be proactive in their health and getting their screenings, because that helps keep costs down and our teachers healthier. Some people are like, why are you encouraging us to go do stuff that costs you money? Well, I would rather you find something earlier than later and get it taken care of and back and healthier for you and your families. The other thing is that we really need to encourage everyone to look at mail pharmacy. One, it's totally more convenient than standing in line. I was at Walgreens last night for an hour and 22 minutes, and I thought to myself, this is why I do mail-in pharmacy. One, it saves the district a lot of money, and two, it's more appropriately priced pharmaceuticals, which then saves us money. Something that I have to reiterate, because we have newer teachers, we have newer employees, we are a self-insured district, which means that we actually pay the claims. But what that allows us to do is not be dictated by what can and can't be done, what benefits we can and don't have to give to our employees. And that allows us to do things such as homeopathic care, online programs, things that just aren't necessarily usually covered in a standard policy. It also allows us to offer 3 different types of policies. But in that, I have to ask for people's help in order to keep the costs down where we can control them so that we can continue to offer a free program to all, and we can continue to stay self-insured. There are tons of districts around the United States who are having to get out of the system, basically due to pharmaceutical costs is the number one thing. So I just want to kind of reiterate that and ask everyone to please, if they talk to their doctor, one, ask, is there a generic of that? I found out something that I was taking that was $900 a month one time was $3.50 on the generic. So that not only helped me, but it helped my employer and it helped the cost of pharmaceuticals. And then two, if you could please try to use the mail-in pharmacy. That would be the greatest thing. We are looking at more things that we want to offer instead of less things, and we're going to have to be very strategic in how we do that. But I'd like to take a second to just thank the committee. This is a really good group of people who come on their Friday mornings before their regular jobs and their regular lives, who care so much about how healthy our employees are. And I just want to thank everyone that's in there, because we have some pretty deep conversations, and it's all conversation about how can we make your lives better and offer a better benefit. And so I just wanted to thank everybody on that. There are several things that I ask you to stop deleting Sandy's emails. If you get an email and it has a newsletter in it, people keep saying, I didn't know that you guys had cooking classes. I didn't know that there was yoga. I didn't know that there was going to be fresh food, that I could do a food bag and learn how to cook with it. All of that is on there. And I know we get inundated with emails, but she works very hard to send out some really, really cool things that we're able to offer and that we want to offer. So please make sure that you open those up. Just open them up for the next quarter. Open them up the next 3 times, and then you'll go, oh my gosh, these are the coolest emails ever. I need to make sure I open them. So with that said, please check your emails. If you deleted something from Standard, go in there and make sure that you look at it again. And that's it. Thank you, Mr. President.
With no other standing committee reports, moving on to 10:02, student activity report. Does anybody have any questions or comments about that? All right, nothing there. Item 11:01, board information. I suppose I should kind of go in order here. Jim, did you have anything?
Yes, I did. About 10 days ago, I attended Tempe South Social Night. And part of the reason I was there is they collected a tremendous amount of backpacks and school supplies for kids. And they said, well, can you take this tomorrow? And I said, well, not even next week, because we're on fall break. So we put it all in the back of my car. We laid the seats down, we filled it up. And now I have it in my second bedroom. And when the kids come back to school, I'll need some help. And we'll get the Tempe South Rotarian to help make the presentation, I guess. I'd rather not bring it into the boardroom. I'd rather just bring it to the school and only move it once. So anyway, but thank you to the Tempe South Rotarians.
Very good. Monica, did you have anything?
No, thank you.
Allison?
Thank you, Mr. President. Yeah, one thing that I did want to bring up is to make sure that you all put the Heart Walk in your calendar. It's going to be on the 15th, and it's going to be a fun get-together. Every year it's great. We want more and more people to participate. And I also want to tell everybody that Meyer Montessori won the stroke. They had 100% participation in the stroke awareness contest. 100% of their employees participated, and they ended up winning a major award. So I just want to say thank you for taking care of yourselves. I also had the pleasure of going to Nashville with some leaders in the community who help our children in a nonprofit. And while I was there, I was able to talk to people about what is happening with your public education and what are you proud of, what are you doing? And I did not realize how Nashville is so focused on public education. They actually built a Parthenon in the middle of one of Nashville's parks, an exact replica. And they started that because they wanted to start the city off right with focusing on democracy and the idea that of public education, and that every student would get a great education. When I was talking to them, I said, well, do you mind me asking how much, do you know how much you're spending per student? Of course, I'd already looked it up and I knew the answer, but I wanted to get that. And they said, well, we kind of regret to tell you that it's around $11,000 now. It's gone down a little bit. And they were shocked to hear that we pay half of that per student. So I was able to pick brains and see, okay, what are they doing? How are they looking at it? How is their community so open-minded when it comes to public education? And I just want to thank everybody out there for helping with the information, and also let the state of Arizona and our legislators know that there are other ways to handle education, and we've got some great examples throughout the U.S. And that's it. Thank you, Mr. President.
All right. I'll just say for my board information, ballots got mailed out today, and so everyone should either vote the ballots that were mailed out, or if you choose to vote in person, that's also available to you. And I would advocate for voting earlier so you don't have to deal with the line if you want to vote in person. It's a 2-page ballot, both sides. It's going to take you a while. So I don't know. Why would you just want to stand at 100-degree heat? It's going to be 100 degrees forever. So I would just duck that. Anyway, moving on, 12:01, announcements, upcoming events. Fall break is Monday, September 30th through Friday, October 11th. All schools will be closed. Oktoberfest will be held Friday, October 11th from 5 p.m. to midnight, Saturday, October 12th from 10 a.m. to midnight, and Sunday, October 13th from 10 a.m. to 8 p.m. at Tempe Town Lake. District-wide staff development will be held on Monday, October 14th. All schools will be closed. There will be an agenda committee meeting on Wednesday, October 30th at 11 a.m. The next regularly scheduled governing board meeting will take place on Wednesday, November 6th at 7 p.m. in this room. And the 41st annual Don Carlos Humanitarian Award Ceremony and dinner will take place on Monday, November 18th at 5:30 p.m. at the SRP Para Club. Item 1301, meeting adjournment.
Mr. President, earlier tonight I asked that we be done before 10 a.m. or 10 p.m. And it's really not even 8 o'clock yet, so thank you, Mr. President. I'd make a motion that we adjourn tonight's meeting.
Second, this is Allison.
Motion by Jim, seconded by Allison. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. We are adjourned.
Good night, everybody.
Good night. Thank you.
Good night, Monica.